So I'm here with my good friend Frank Martin to talk about a recent trip we took in southwestern US. We started from home here a bit north of Boulder, Colorado. And this trip was 1,400 miles in 8 days. And the main geological feature is the Colorado Plateau, which covers a region about like this. This was uplifted about 70 million years ago. And it's interesting because there's various layers of sedimentary rock, maybe 30 or 40 well-identified thick layers of sedimentary rock of different colors, and it's eroded at different levels. So as you travel around here, you see very different geological formations. The first leg was to Moab, Utah, which is about a 6-hour drive on Interstate 70. And we have some pictures of Linwood Canyon, arguably the most beautiful thing in the whole interstate system, certainly the most complex to build. Building a road through a canyon is very difficult. And then we took a shortcut here to Moab through a place called Fisher Towers. This is our first beginning to see these beautiful red formations in the Moab area. While the next day, the first day and full day, we went to two national parks, Arches and Canyonlands. Arches has over 2,200 arches in it. It's a very, very popular park. The problem is that you got to park someplace to get out and hike, and there's not many parking lots. Then on to Canyonlands, one of my favorite places. I used to go here to mountain bike. Next day to the San Rafael Swell in Utah. This is far too immense to visit in half a day, I realize. You need to spend a week in there. Then in the afternoon, Goblin State Park in Utah. Next to Farmington, New Mexico. And the whole focus of this part of the trip was the ancient Puebloans who had been in this area since ancient times, for sure. These people migrated across either land bridges from Asia or from the sea in Asia. And nobody knows how long ago. Some of these communities claim to be 50,000 years old. I don't know. Some are documented to be 12,000. And about 1500, the Spanish upset the status quo, actually in the 1400s. They brought armies in there, and these people have struggled to survive, to hold on to their culture. And on the way to Farmington, we stopped in Hovenweep, which is about 12,000 years old, with buildings constructed by the local people, maybe in the year 1100, 1200. And then the Canyon of the Ancients, which is actually a giant region, but has a national monument. Then on to Gallup, and the point of this was to go to Canyonlands. It's on the Navajo reservation. We hired a guide. You can't go in there without a guide, which is fine with us. And then on to Albuquerque, and the main thing here was to start heading toward home. And then went to the Zuni Pueblo. This is a very interesting place because the language here is unlike any other language in the region. It's structured like Japanese. And there's a lady who wrote a book claiming that Japanese emperor made a speech in the year 600 about finding the center of the earth, and that these Japanese monks took a ship in the year 1200. We don't know if this is true or not, but I was curious about that. And then the starting home from Albuquerque is too far to drive in one day, so we went to Alamosa, and we stopped on the way in Pecos National Monument. Again, 12,000 years at least settlement, upset by the Mexicans or Spanish first, and then Mexicans. Then finally home, and we had good weather, except we hit the snowstorm from hell going through Morgan Pass here on the way to Poncha Springs, and then back home. So there it is, Frank. Any thoughts or questions?
No, it looks like a very aggressive and interesting trip. A lot of stops.
I'm not sure how that happened. Let me get this back. I may have hit the wrong close here. Okay, so here we are on leaving, going over Kenosha Pass. So the big deal with all this travel is where you get these passes, and this is a bright sunny day here. It has snowed 2 days before, so of course the pass still has snow. And we went through 6 tunnels. You can see why there's a tunnel. I mean, you can imagine going around this rock. This is one of these sedimentary deposits. And we're in a canyon here, which we love. Again, just going along the highway. This is kind of the peak, and this is the typical bottleneck, Eisenhower Tunnel, built in 1973. And it's very often the case in Colorado. You got dreary, cloudy weather on one side. You go through the tunnel, come out, and you got blue sky. So that's common here to have totally different weather on 2 sides of the mountain pass. Again, snow on the ground. Now we're in Glenwood Canyon, and you can see here some of the interesting uplift that's common in Colorado, where it's been lifted sideways. And these layers are, I don't know, maybe 5 million years distance, different sedimentary layers. And we're in the canyon now, and you can see there's 2 levels to the road. You can see the difficulties of constructing this road through here. That's the Colorado River there. And we stopped at a little stopping place and had this sign. In 1905, Colorado State Senator hopes someday our road will be a portion of a grand boulevard stretching across the nation. So is the most celebrated section of the interstate highway system in the US, and you can see the complexity of the construction here. The Colorado River, another tunnel. You can see the 2 levels. Actually, it's a very pleasant drive through here. The big canyon walls are imposing. This is the westward level, and the eastward levels down here.
And you see why Eisenhower got his name on the tunnel.
That's right.
It's part of his interstate system.
You know, you got to drive this thing a bit and see how much trucking on it to see how important this is economically.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you'd move anything in this country without it. I stopped in Rifle, Colorado to charge the car, and the reason I took this picture is that it's charging at 1,036 miles per hour at 258 kilowatts. So that's how fast this Tesla charger is. This is incredible. A lot of scenery. I don't know if this is going to be as powerful on the screen as it is in person, but just
good. Looks good.
Thank you. The variety of stuff that you see just driving along, we're just mesmerized. Junko likes to take signs when we enter someplace. This is Grand Junction. This is along the, we go here and stay once in a while. We like this town. Now we're heading down 285 into the flatland of Fruita. And this is actually an end point of the Colorado National Monument. Leaving Colorado, entering Utah. And someone couldn't resist plastering things on this sign. This arch is the icon of Utah. We're going to see it. It's called Delicate Arch. We're going to see it later. Now we're heading toward Moab. We've exited the highway. And this is the dramatic change in scenery at this level. So what's happened is that you've got these various levels that have been scraped off by erosion at different levels in different places.
The other thing you can see, Charlie, is you can see when it's tilted and uplifted and when it's just eroded.
Yep, absolutely.
The layers are parallel
to
the surface, to the earth.
Yep. Fisher Towers. Talk about this later. This green rock is actually iron. It's 2 elements of iron. It's not copper, which most people think.
Mm-hmm.
And there, you're right, Frank. You can see this is not uplifted much at all.
Right.
Just eroded in different ways. I remember the first time I went here, which was 1993. I just was awestruck by this.
Mhm.
There's the names of them.
You think about the amount of wind and water that had to go through there. Yeah,
So here's what I was talking about. I think I've got a better picture of it later, but these are the various layers. I think the Grand Canyon is scraped to here. Different national parks are scraped at different levels by how the erosion worked. That's why they look different. And here's the various movies that have been filmed in Fisher Towers. City Slickers 2, Geronimo, etc. Yeah, here we go. This is a little better. So you can see the various rock types. But anyway, each of these parks just happens to scrape it, just erode at a different level. So it's kind of fun. Leaving Fisher Towers, driving toward the town of Moab. And we stopped at the charger in Moab, charged the car, and I saw this thing and I thought, does that look like fun? I don't know. These are really popular these days. And you can see that the guy's going off-road. And most of this, 80% of Colorado is publicly owned land, and so you can kind of go where you want.
Hmm.
This guy had this young boy with him, looked like he's pretty miserable when he got out. Now we're having dinner. We've gotten to Moab, Mexican food.
well, you don't look miserable. Look,
This is shrimp and green chili sauce
mhm.
and shrimp and Diablo sauce. Junko and I we like this meal a lot, so we got it and traded halfway through, and then a tortilla, of course. Now we're going into Arches National Park, and we skipped the visitor center to get in here early and drove along to the very end. It's a dead end. There's a giant parking lot, completely full, one space, we got it, we got out and started hiking. And the problem is that people who go in here, you can spend all day in here, so
Mhm.
once the lot fills up, it's pretty much done. But these giant rock formations,
Oh
it's
my.
kind of fun how this guy got stabilized up there. And a little thing about how it all happened. We're just mesmerized. I couldn't get Junko out of here.
Your cursor's right in the middle of the picture.
Say again?
Yeah, I said your cursor is right in the middle of the picture, your little arrow.
Yeah,
You might just want to move it.
okay,
There you go. Excellent.
thank you. I like to shoot directly into the sun. Most people don't do this, but I like it. Sand Dune Arch Trail, a little side trail in here we took, and there's the arch.
Mhm.
So these are unstable. What the way these form is you had the uplift, then the erosion, and the erosion this happened to be a slightly weaker rock, ends up like this. So that's the physics of it, so to speak.
Are those what you call sandstone?
Yeah, this is sandstone.
Okay, so it's, yeah.
It can erode. Walking along this trail. It's cold here. You can see how I'm dressed.
Mhm.
There's an arch. The same arch from a distance, or a different one perhaps. This streaks, they call it varnish, but it's just really water depositing minerals.
Mhm.
This is one of the more famous things here, landscape arch. And in some date here, 1990, 1950, I think, actually, a big piece of it fell down.
Oh,
So again, these are unstable. So you're not allowed to go under it anymore because at some time in not too distant future, it's gonna be gone.
Mhm.
A big rock nearby. And I went sort of under it to get a picture of the sky through it. I thought that was the best way to see it. Nice lady stopped and offered to take our photograph.
Uh-huh. That's incredible.
Yeah. And if you wanted to go on, this is called Primitive Trail. And there it is. We're not doing this, Frank.
Yeah,
this is on your hands and knees crawling up this thing. And if you fall, you're gonna be seriously injured. So we skipped that.
I think you and I are beyond doing that
That's
activity.
beyond doing that
Not
about
allowed anymore.
20 years ago.
That's right. About 20 years past, I might have gone in for something like that, but not today.
It had great weather, blue sky.
Uh,
These things have these names, fiery furnace, because they resemble these things. Of course, there's no furnace here. This is again sort of a common erosion pattern.
I imagine it gets hot in the summer though, doesn't it?
Oh, Frank, you can't go here in the summer.
Yeah, that's what I,
That's
yeah.
nobody goes to Moab in the summer. In fact, I saw a sign that I couldn't quite believe. It said when it's over 98 degrees, we close the park. It's just in the sun, it's just too
Yeah.
damn hot.
Well, and you get low humidity and people get dehydrated very quickly.
Exactly. They said, don't, for this time of year, we don't worry about it, but they said, do not leave the car without water.
Hmm.
This is about how the national park, 95% of it is managed as wilderness, which is kind of nice. We're driving around in the park. Junko wanted me to take a picture of that bird.
He looks happy.
This is the icon of the park,
Mhm.
Delicate Arch. So there was a parking lot that was full that you could then walk a mile to this arch. That's what these people are doing. And Junko was disappointed. I was kind of glad. I wanted to spend half a day in here. She could have stayed in here a week. She loved this place.
Mhm.
So this is a viewing point down the road where you could see it with a camera. So there it is. And little model of it.
Mhm.
And here's about the green rock, the green color everywhere, about how it's actually iron.
Hmm.
In fact, if you're curious, you can read here. It's two minerals of iron. Actually, it's
Yeah,
not.
I would have thought it was copper as well.
Yeah, everybody does.
Yeah.
Something underwater happened to it. Another arch. There's supposedly 2,200 arches in here. This is interesting, double trail arch. This was
Mhm.
quite beautiful. Here it is, and look at the people in there. You can see the scale of this thing. So it started with a hole, and it made a very, very deep hole. And as it went deeper and deeper, it finally eroded out. See the
Mhm.
progress here, eroded out the bottom. We went fairly close to it to be able to sort of look up into it.
Mhm. What kind of camera are you using? These are really good pictures.
I've got these were probably my Canon 9GX. It's a little tiny camera, but it's got the sensor. It's got an apex sensor, the same sensor as the SLR.
Okay.
It's a wonderful camera. It's got a zoom lens. It's small. Um, it's professional. It's about $400 or $500. To me,
Yeah.
it's the camera to take traveling. I also had a big Nikon, I mean, a big SLR with me, but I usually use that for either the wide angle or the super long telephoto, which I don't think I did either one here. I think this
That
was,
looked like an elephant. Did that have a name?
yeah, right. Sure does.
Yeah, interesting. I see why she wanted to spend more time.
Oh yeah, I had to drag her out of here because my plan was to go to Canyonlands in the afternoon. Um, So now we're driving out of the park, but look at this, Frank, huh?
Breathtaking.
Yeah. We stopped at the visitor center on the way out. Now we're in Canyonlands. So this is a place I used to go mountain biking every year on the White Rim Trail, which is a 100-mile trail. And it's it's got three different areas. This is called Island in the Sky, which is the only place there's a paved road that you can drive on. So I think for Junko particularly, this was enough for her. She didn't want to go down. I'll show you later what the road looks like going down and to go biking there. This had an arch too, and this was recommended by the rangers. So pretty interesting, the sight through the arch. You can sort of get some sense of what this is like.
It's got a Grand Canyon feel to it.
It does indeed.
Mhm.
To me, it was the Grand Canyon without crowds.
Mm.
I love to come here. I would sleep on one of these ledges in a bivy sack.
Mm.
This was about I'm gonna say a 15-minute walk over rocks that were not too difficult. And this is this is at the confluence of the Green and Colorado River. Since we're on the left-hand side, that's gotta be the Colorado down there. This is about this guy Powell, who is very famous for this whole area of the country was blank on US maps.
Mm.
And this guy lost his arm as a Union's general in the Civil War. Unbelievably organized about 10 really dedicated people and explored this whole area, the Grand Canyon and and with the Colorado and Green River and little wooden boats. I'll show you a picture of them.
Mhm.
And these very intense rapids that seem impossible. This is the right-hand side of Island in the Sky, looking at the Green River. And again, similar view. This is the White Rim Trail. This is the thing I used to ride our bikes on for 100
Mhm.
miles.
How
So
long did one of those bike trips take, Charlie? You
a
obviously
week,
spent the night.
take a
A
week.
week. Okay.
I did this with a friend of mine arranged this. He'd
Mhm.
been doing it for years. You get about 6 or 8 people and a couple of big giant trucks. There's nothing in here. You gotta take water, food,
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
So even firewood. So we go down there and you're driving in sand basically on a mountain bike. We'd take turns driving the truck and about a week to do it. And that's and we're sort of stopping along the way, and there's lots of places. There's steep hills. And men being men, we see who can get up the hill the fastest.
Mhm.
And this trail, I didn't know this until this trip. This was built by the government to mine uranium. This was the main source of uranium, this area,
Hmm.
in the post-Cold War period. I had no idea that's who made that road. Road means just it's a graded thing. This is not a road there's no
It's not
asphalt or
paved.
anything.
Yeah.
It's just, I just found, so here's kind of the levels. You're up here, here's the White Rim Road. And you're looking down into these canyons. Here's the Colorado River over here, deeply entrenched. So again, you sort of see how you get these different kinds of rock formations, get the different colors. I
It
saw
also
this
shows you
line.
the power of gravity mixed with water in that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Junko saw this line, and from being in Chaco Canyon, the Chacoans ran these north-south roads. So we thought this might be an ancient Puebloan road. And I asked the ranger who was there, and he said, no, it's a survey line that the US government put in there before, while they were surveying the land. So, and it was good to get information. And there's the White Rim Trail. Just spectacular.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure she didn't complain about moving on when she saw this.
No, she liked this. She loves these twisted pine trees and always asking me
Yeah.
how this happens. I think it's genetic. She thinks it's wind, but anyway, there's common these trees in the west. And there's
I think it's wind as well. You see it a
okay.
lot on the Pacific coast, at least twisted. I don't know, bent quite like.
Sometimes like take a picture with me in the picture as a silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
And she's pointing at something. $70 million years of layers.
No.
Here they're talking about all the various formations in here. Navajo sandstone, Chinle formation. This is about going down into the canyon. This is where we go down to get on the White Rim Trail. We stopped here. We stopped at all the overlooks of this little park. And this one happened to have this giant plateau of flat land. I have no idea how that existed. The view from here. Junco's more, so to go in here, this is the Schaefer Trail. This is how you go in here. And on our honeymoon, I hired a Jeep and took Junco down this, and she's never forgiven me.
Yeah, that looks pretty exciting.
You know, you need your wits about you to do this. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And she's more willing than I am to climb a little bit. This was a little plaque about the distance, and they said that when you can see these LaSalle Mountains, you're looking 150 miles out.
Mm-hmm.
So there we are. There's our view. It's 150 miles away. That's pretty amazing. We had a good day. That camera's got a great zoom on it.
Well, yeah, that's good.
Heading out of the park, back to Moab.
Sometime I'd like to see a picture of that compared with your pixel.
Oh, I don't know. The pixel's great for snapshots, but it doesn't give me I don't use it on trips like this. It doesn't give me the capabilities of the camera.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe just step outside and take a picture from your house somewhere.
Yeah, okay.
Some beautiful views there. Just take a couple pictures. I'd like to see what it looks like.
I think the bigger thing is the control you have with it. So
of course, yes.
You know.
Yeah.
This turned out to be our favorite restaurant. It's named after a bridge, the Dewey Bridge, that was built, I think, turn of the century, 1900, a wooden bridge and connect Moab so people get supplies in and out, and kids playing with matches burned it down. So here we are with fresh IPA, and Junco likes wheat beer, which comes with a slice of fruit or something.
I'm with Junco. I prefer, I'm not a big IPA fan.
This was chicken cooked Argentine style, which I was very surprised with. Chimichurri sauce, which I don't think most people even know what it is. So that was good.
Mm-hmm.
There's the green rocks again. Now we're heading into Utah toward the San Rafael Swell. And these are photographs of this. An interstate again. 30-mile barrier sandstone wall, eastern edge of nowhere. Centuries, only the most intrepid travelers found their way through this slot canyon. Interstate 70 came through, cutting the reef. 8 miles of road cost $4.5 million. So And the Silent City, there's nothing in here. And here's about the uranium.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen this before. It turns out these are legal in Utah, but illegal in Wyoming and Colorado to hook 3 track trailers together.
Mm-hmm.
We're driving up this canyon. We're rising up. This is another upwelling on top of the upwelling.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like another miniature Grand Canyon.
You're a geologist. You gotta love this.
I know. There's a
It's like
reason
just
Noel
peeling
moved to
back history.
Colorado.
Yeah, it's like peeling back history.
Yep, it is. So I think Tom, our builder, recommended this, and I think if you got a week in a electric motorized motorcycle, this is the place to go. There's nobody here,
Mm-hmm.
but we just didn't have the time, and it's not really ideal for electric cars. There's once you get in here, there's no electricity even for anything. But interesting geology. Standing at the bottom of the ocean, standing on a limestone layer of the Carmel Formation, ancient seabed, covered the great sand dunes. Yeah, I think you know that most of Colorado was underwater for most of the time.
Did you see any shell or shellfish kind of things?
We didn't
around?
really explore much. We
Didn't get a chance to look.
The idea was to kind of take a look around.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's gorgeous.
And the fact that it snowed the week before made everything more beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
There's your typical highway out here. No, it's just the scenery is just overwhelming. Driving around in the Swell now.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this
Is that a
interesting.
cattle ranch?
Yeah, all these cows bunched up together. I don't know why. Maybe there's water there. I don't know.
Mm.
Whenever you see these fences, you're in a ranch.
Yeah.
This is a runaway truck ramp.
Mm-hmm.
When it freshly snowed, we could see the people actually using these things. These are pretty steep grades, like 7-8% on curved roads. By the way, electric car is perfect for this because it just regenerates the battery. You don't need to ever touch the brakes.
Mhm.
Plus, I can't read the grade there. I think it's 6%.
So your Tesla will charge itself at some level
Oh yeah,
when going.
yeah.
Okay.
Every time I slow down, it is charging itself. It shows me a little gauge on there. Green means it's recharging.
Yeah, my Prius will do that as well. But I've
Sure.
also got the motor that will do it. So, yeah.
So we're going to the town of Green River for 2 things: to go to the Powell Museum and charge the car.
Mm-hmm.
I took this picture because I've never seen a Tesla charging station so full.
Mm-hmm.
Normally there's 1 or 2 cars maximum. For whatever reason, this is on some route, and there they are.
Yeah.
That white car is ours, by the way.
Okay.
This is the Powell Museum. We spent about 30-40 minutes in here. This is the boats they went down the Grand
Mhm.
Canyon on, and those rapids are so severe that they got to a place where nobody would go. So they had a dinner, nobody spoke, and half the guys just said, we're not doing this. And Powell and 3 guys got in and they made it through. The other 3 guys were never heard from again.
Mm.
But that's kind of what they were facing in a sculpture.
Hmm.
Then we had a little free time, so went to Goblin Valley State Park.
Where did they get the name Goblin?
Because these look like goblins.
Oh, okay. No, I see they do.
So this is the most famous iconic view, the 3 Sisters. And here they are, the goblins.
Mm-hmm.
Jurassic period, 140 170 million years ago, shallow sea. Why are there so many goblins here and not in large concentrations anywhere else? It was a tidal flat covered in sand dunes, still eroding. Hard sandstone left from ancient sand dunes created the fins and arches. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Kids love this place, you know.
Mm. Like a bunch of mushrooms and a nuclear bomb.
Now we're leaving here. Junko took this picture from the car. I have no idea what this is. I guess someone's sculpture. I don't know. Now we're driving back to Moab. Here's dinner. Junko got a locally farmed hamburger with bacon bits and blue cheese,
Mhm.
and I got the meatloaf with blue cheese on it and mushrooms. We saw this, didn't know what this was. We kept going. It turns out these people hollowed out a 5,000 square foot home just around the corner in the rock.
Hmm.
Here's an arch just driving along. Blue Mountain Recreation Area. Stopped in Blanding to do, because they got a supercharger there, and walked into the visitor center and had a wonderful conversation with the lady there. The city is 90% Mormons. And she said there's not even a restaurant in town. They go to some other place to eat.
Mhm.
And she talked about the fact that her family, I didn't know this, her family came from England. Most of the Mormons that came, I didn't know they came from England. And they came to the US for a better life. And they showed up here and found out that polygamy was illegal. So they went and lived in Mexico. They went and dominated the city of Mexico.
Mhm.
They later moved back to the US and they tended to go to the same cities like this town of Blanding. And I asked her about Hole in the Wall, and she said that there was actually the journey from Missouri where they were persecuted, they hit this impassable place and they found that they wintered over in the desert. They couldn't travel. And they found this sort of slot in the canyon walls. They hammered away on it and widened it, and they lowered the people down, the horses, everything on ropes down 100 feet to continue the trip. Said that people who were hole in the wall considered themselves distinct from Mexicans and didn't intermarry with Mexicans. There's hole in the wall Mormons and Mexican Mormons.
Mhm.
Anyway, delightful lady. A lot of this trip, there's open range, which means the cows are on the road. This is what you see. There's no
Yeah.
fences. You see just this road. Wild horses.
He's a good looking boy.
Yeah, these are nice looking horses.
Yeah. They look healthy.
I asked our Navajo guide, were these wild? He said, yes, these are just wild horses. And here's what you're driving on, Frank.
Mm. Those horses look healthier than the ones down at Chincoteague.
They do. And
Yeah.
I was quite surprised. They might be a rancher's horses. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
This was a highlight of the trip to come here. This is an offshoot of Chaco, which is one of our favorite places. And the word means deserted valley. And you can read about this. I think that Hovenweep is the most symbolic of places in the Southwest. Gives me a feeling similar to what I feel when I'm participating in ceremonies which require a tacit recognition of realities other than blatantly visual. So I talked to these Navajo guides about this, and they still go into their kivas. They take peyote and they actually see the spirits come out and talk with them.
Hmm.
During those times, I know that nature and energy of the bear, of the rock, of the clouds, of the water. I become aware of the energies outside myself, outside the human context. Hovenweep, I slide into a place, get to know all the flowing, warm sandstone under my feet, the cool preciousness of the water, the void of the canyon, and the all-covering sky. I want to be part of this place.
Hmm.
So this is the basic layout of the place. So don't dwell on that. Here's more about it. And so we don't know why they left. There's many theories, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So they built this stuff 700-800 years ago in this canyon, the visitor center. And this is what we did is we did the whole trail. So here's the parking lot. This is a paved trail. This is about a 2-mile trail, and this is jagged rocks. This was demanding to walk on. I wouldn't say you had to pay attention, and I got tired on this. We took this loop over here, went around, and I'll show you. These are just photographs going around this route. This was a very steep climb down rocks, and Junko's helping me with this, or helping each other across the canyon floor and climb up and then back to the visitor center. So that's the basic trip. This is remarkable architecture built on rocks. These people lived here in abundance, maybe 2,000 of them. There's nothing else that I know like this in the Southwest. And I sort of practiced as we did this more and more, kind of starting to feel the presence of the people who were here before. This is the very rugged canyon, some things built down in here. And this is a common enigmatic feature of the Puebloan building styles, this T-shaped door. And the Navajo explained it makes a certain kind of a shadow. Someone else told me, no, it's real simple. It's just that they have these big water jugs and space to walk in. Other people think they were assigned to keep the Navajo out. So there's no written history of these people. So all you have is their oral traditions.
Are those bricks, or are they made,
They're
bricks that they
stones.
made, or stones?
They're just stones they picked up off the ground
I got you.
and shaped. Yeah, these are, as far as I know, these natural stones.
Okay.
And what they did is they learned from the Chacoans to put in a little filler rock here. You see a small rock? That's how they stabilized it. And I think this had mortar holding it together, just mud. And the importance of the canyon is typically canyons have water flowing in the bottom. So the canyon gave them water. And they typically grew what they call the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash. And and farmed. And just like every place, the population grew to whatever the food could support. There's the LaSalle Mountains in the background again.
Yeah.
Look at these structures, Frank. We think these were fortifications, but we don't know. This is just talking about how the Park Service has fortified the underneath parts. These windows are so small, almost makes you think they were for shooting out of. They call this the castle, but who knows? I think you can sort of see remnants of adobe pigment on these rocks.
It looks like it, yeah.
Nobody knows how long these people have been here, maybe 12,000, 15,000 years ago.
The
But this was
structures indicate those structures indicate to me they stayed for quite some time.
yeah, had to be. This took,
Yeah.
you know, and building down here in the canyon floor. This is called slick rock. This is what you mountain bike on near Moab. It's called slick rock, but it's not slick. It's very rough. They think this was a house some people lived in here. This is the kind of trail we're walking on. This is the trail down. This was required some patience. It's coming down through here somewhere. And again, that's kind of the overview of the place.
Yeah.
Rock, wood, and mud mortar. Cows on the side of the road here. There's no fence, no nothing. Sort of up and down hills, typical. This was the second visit on the same day. I thought this was a spot, but it's not. It's actually a giant region. And we had some difficulty to find this visitor center, but this is kind of the, just a Department of Interior thing for it. This yellow is Canyons of the Asians. You see how huge this is.
Mhm.
So this was startling to me. Saw this occasionally, only in Colorado I've ever seen this. Blue sky and black storm just next to each other. So we're watching this storm, whether it's going to rain on us, because we want to walk up this hill. By the way, here's my 35mm with a wide angle lens. You can sort of see some curvature to it.
Yep.
This is an ancient pueblo, what's left of it. Very nice visitor center. And so they started forming about, so talk about the evolution here. So earlier than 2,000 years ago, they were basically just foraging and getting game when they could. And I'd never heard of this. They practiced dry farming. So there's not enough water to make the ground wet. They learned how to put this in dry ground and get enough moisture just from the occasional rains and leaching out of the ground. And they probably had dog and domesticated turkeys to keep birds, mice, and insects out of the food. And they prayed, sang, and danced for fertility and good weather. So this is the various phases of this. So these people go back to some unknown time. You see here the migration routes either along the coast or along this open place between the glaciers into North America and eventually down into South America. So this is from some unknown date. I think that our species has been around 200 or 300,000 years. So it could be that far back to 6,500 BC. Then what's called the Archaic, and here they are. This is an atla, which is a kind of a throwing thing they invented that throws a spear. And so now they're starting to, they're living from 700 to 1000 BC on the yucca plant and seeds and things they're getting and animals that they're spearing. They call this basket maker 2. The reason is they thought there's going to be a basket maker 1. Turns out there wasn't. Now you see they're starting to weave baskets and plant corn. So they're settling down. This is 1500 BC to about the year 500. Then basket maker 2. Now they've got flint arrowheads and bows and arrows, and they're starting to weave things. And then the first Puebloan period. This is kind of where Chaco was built. This is the part that interests us a lot. They doing early pottery. Next period, 900 to 1150, is kind of the prosperity of these people, more sophisticated baskets and things. Then the third period, they sort of named this as around 1285. These people migrated out of these places and down into the Great Southern Migration. And here's the migration. They left this area, came into the Chaco or Acoma or Zuni. And why they left, we don't know. I think the most common thought is that it just became resource scarce. You need wood for fires, and these trees that they're burning grow very, very slowly. You need water, not just for food, but for building, and there supposedly was an extended drought. So they moved on to these places, typically like Farmington, where you have rivers. This is kind of interesting. This is what a house looked like in the year 800. And they reconstructed this, and you kind of had this area with a covering for the sun. This is the vent, had a fire inside, sort of like a kiva, but it wasn't a religious thing.
Mhm.
You came in through the roof just like a kiva, it had a fire in here. So you sort of climbed through the smoke in the wintertime. And this was a hole in the ground, which was thermally, for
Mhm.
as hot as it gets here. And this had probably dirt on top, mud. So this was probably comfortable year round in the winter to put your little fire. So that's how they lived in the year 800.
What was the thing on the left there in the picture? The tunnel?
Yeah, this cavity,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just a hole they dug. So they had this hole in the ground here with so this was kind of like a comfortable place with a roof outdoors. So again, another fire, they probably worked out here, made pottery out here, and slept and lived in this box back here. There's kind of the front area that you can see. This is the vent hole to control the air for the fire. Why this is here, I'm not sure, except maybe just keep this fire smoke away from here. And they're doing pottery and stuff. Again, AD 575 making bowls. This was a big deal, Frank, because now you could store food in these. And dried corn and beans and have it for the winter. And fetishes are a big deal. This is a spiritual thing. The Zuni are famous for these. These are religious amulets. Junko took these pictures. Interesting artwork pictures. Needles made from bones of animals. This kind of their trading. They traded a lot, so other tribes would bring things, turquoise or various things. And this is their annual calendar, and of course, it's arranged around the solstices and equinoxes. So in March, they'd do wild plant collecting and corn dances, and you can look at these things, rain dances. The big issue is getting enough rain. I mean, and then harvesting crops, and then in the winter, their spiritual ceremonies, dances, storytelling. Big storytelling was big for these people. That's how they preserved their culture. The elders would tell the stories. Here they were about 1900, where someone could take photographs, could see what the place looked like. The languages, and again, what's interesting is the Zuni is completely unique. These people could generally speak to each other. Even the languages were different, but they were similar enough. I think maybe like Spanish and Italian, they could sort of communicate, but the Zuni, no, had the structure of Japanese.
Did they have written language, Charlie?
Nobody had written language,
Gotcha.
zero. Junko took pictures of some of the plants they used. Yucca was very important for making baskets. Sumac, basket making, mountain mahogany, juniper, they ate the berries. Pinon, pinon nuts, we've had pinon in our yard. That's what those look like. They don't make many, but you can eat those nuts. They can buy them in Costco, pinon nuts. Sagebrush everywhere. We have that too. This is the top of the hill, Escalante Pueblo. Again, 1120, the roof timbers were cut. And the kivas, everywhere there's tons and tons of kivas. They went into these to pray, and these were central to connect sky to earth, get the sun to come back. Again, so people say nothing's old in the US. Well, this is 1100, so come on.
Yeah. And what they're talking about is nothing old that we built.
That's right. Back to dinner time, fish tacos. And Junko had something I've never seen in a Mexican restaurant, was lettuce wraps. And this was a fajita meat that had been somehow chopped up and processed, and she loved this. This is Shiprock. So now we're heading towards the Canyon de Chelly. Leaving New Mexico, entering Arizona. We're driving along 65 miles an hour down this straight uninterrupted road and get to a speed limit sign of 20 miles an hour. I don't know, what the hell's this? Well, we go through a mountain pass for about half an hour. And the road was so bad that I took it off auto drive and driving around the potholes. And now we're out again. And this is Canyon de Chelly. Junko and I were here for our honeymoon and took a kind of a lousy tour. I researched this and picked a really good tour company. We booked a 5-hour tour. And we're driving, the canyon's wet this time of year. So this whole area, once you have the snow starting to melt, you get the wet ground in this part of the country. So he's driving through this wet ground, and we love this rock art. This is, when it's granular like this, it probably dates to maybe, this is all done by the native Puebloans who lived here until maybe 1400s. This has been dated by a nearby tree ring, cut wood to 200 BC. The most common thing you see is Cocopelli. He's the god of fertilization. If you think about it, that's pretty important because you need to keep the population going. He's usually upright. I don't know why he's slanted. This is the horned toad. So the horned toad was bringing them rain and water. They spoke to the horned toad. This is a snake. These are hand marks where you put your hand here and connect with the ancestors. So here's more of it, more primitive. This canyon, I've never seen this much of this kind of thing. This is the North Star, we think. By the way, all this is pretty much speculation. Here's this varnished rock where they cut these things. I thought it was a hoot that we're driving in mud and water. That's the same one again. This went on forever. This went on for like 100 yards. They called it newspaper rock. And again, you see, this is a dog, probably a person, a deer, I guess, I don't know. And so nobody knows who did this or why, but one speculation, and the guy at Zuni said that the women, by the way, these are all very matriarchal societies to this day. For example, the Navajo land is owned by grandmother, and when she dies, it goes to the youngest daughter. So the women own the land, and so the men would go off hunting. The men would be there doing corn or whatever, and they may have gotten bored. And we think maybe the women did this rock art while the men were gone hunting. So just the spiral for infinity, the animals, the horned toad, thought to bring rain. We thought
About
this
how
was
high is
phenomenal.
that, Charlie? That if somebody were standing on that rock, how high could they reach? All the way up to the top?
No, the dirt used to be up to here. The canyon floor is eroding. So when they did this like 1,000 years ago, this was level with the floor.
I got you.
It wasn't high up then. By the way, this is done with my extreme telephoto. So this is something that you can't do except with a single lens reflex camera.
Of
with
course,
a
yeah.
very long lens. But we were astounded with this. This is something special to us. Driving in the water. See, when it's like this granular, it's chipped out. He says that tells you it's done maybe 0 BC. The later people did it smoother. It got better with the rock work. And this was a treat. Our guide had made this flute himself, and he would stop and play. And boy, this created the mood. More rock art. Just people expressing themselves, no language. This is it. Here's a typical Cocopelli. See his penis out here? He's the god of fertility. And this big sack on his back might be representative of seeds from the woman. We don't know. He's typically playing a flute. We enjoyed this tour very much. We were exhausted, Frank, 5 hours of bouncing around in this Jeep.
You got exercise while you're at it.
Geez. These walls are like 600 feet high, 700 feet high above us. Again, you can see the very ancient carvings with the chip style. So the Navajo came in here and took over this place, and they live in the canyon to this day. And the Park Service owns it, which means the Park Service only gives them 60-year leases on their land. So here's ancient Puebloan structures like you see in other parts of Colorado. So the reason they put them here is probably to keep them out of the rain, because this is adobe and you do get storms. This is thought to be lightning.
Mm.
Now, this is the artist. Often the artist would make his own portrayal at far distance away, and don't know why they did this, except to say that I carved this, but it's not about me. I don't know.
Mm.
Again, these ancient structures built in the rock. That's my telephoto lens there. I switched cameras. He's describing how things work in the kivas and how they lived, and he's doing this with painting in the dirt. This is a close-up of a telephoto lens of a building up there. That's probably someone lived there. We don't know much about this, how they actually did this. This is interesting. This is quite a ways away in a different slot. This is a food storage place. So they built these small stone boxes, and they put either baskets or jars of corn, beans, dried squash in here. They put a fire in there with a bunch of embers and sealed the door. So what happened is, as the fire burned, it consumed all the oxygen in the room. So this became a storage place, oxygen-free storage place to hold food for the winter. Isn't that amazing?
I love that they figured that out.
Yeah.
Smart stuff.
There's the Jeep. We couldn't see the rock art until he pointed it out to us. It took a while to look. Then you see it. This is at the end of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're driving on, up and down these kind of things, into the water, up over a hill. This is a walkway that they walked up to go over this hill. They walked up this, Frank.
Nice.
Here's another one. Modern people can do this. And
No elevator.
Hmm?
No elevator.
No elevator. And recently, the Park Service put in some of these handrails because they worried about people falling. But that they would walk up this. This is people who own this land and come here every weekend and live. And so there's a constant feud about who owns what, because there's nothing written. And they say, well, you know, great grandmother gave me this in 1850 or something. And the Park Service says, show us your deed. There's no deeds. They don't write anything down. So this, he drove in here next to this. He said, this is the cover of Arizona Magazine.
Huh. You really get a feel for what the water has done going through.
Yeah.
Carving all that out.
This is a ladder that our tour guide's father put up here. He climbed up here, and the tour guide climbs up here, and he just put it in here for fun. It's stuck in a kiva up there. This is the path up there, and this is called defensive structure. So when the Spanish army came, then the U.S. Army came, Navajo would go up here. You can't see it very well, but recently they put a steel cable. It's called Baby Channel. And Navajo would go up here and climb up here with bracing their feet on two sides. And you couldn't do this holding on to anything or holding on to a rifle or with a backpack. So the army could not come up there. They'd sit up there, wait till the army left. And the way they brought the name comes from the fact that the children would be put in a basket. The rope would be dropped down, the children would be, babies would be hauled up in a basket. So our guide says he climbs up that with no difficulty. That's him.
Mhm.
And interesting, this is two different sides of this canyon where apparently lots of water hit and not so much. He's showing us a coyote scat where the coyote's eating these pinon nuts. So who would have thought? He's explaining how anytime he camps here, he walks around for 2 miles and scouts for animals. And if you take and sprinkle corn powder in front of your face, you can speak to the animals. So they talk to the animals and tell them to leave them alone. This was before Hitler. This was a sign of a peaceful thing.
Mhm.
The rock art is typically up about this high, Frank.
Mhm.
This is what the canyon's done in 1,000 years. It's eroded down the land. You can get some sense of the scale of this thing. But there, that gives you a sense of how big this stuff is. At the very end, the Park Service had 2 toilets.
Mhm.
These people live here permanently. That's their house. And this is right next to this ruin. Heading back in the water, splashing, back for dinner, beer. Shrimp fajita is one of my favorite dishes.
I'm getting hungry.
Next, we went to Zuni Pueblo. And we were first motivated by the story about the Japanese monks and found this visitor center and arranged a tour. But what he told is that over 50,000 years ago, the people came in. He didn't say from, so that what they believe is the people came out of the earth as salamanders. And there's a whole story about that. And they came to this area and they were carrying holy things from the spirits with them, little bundles. And they were told they have to find the heart of the earth and protect it. So then they fanned out to Chaco and other places to look for the heart of the earth. Meanwhile, the Navajo, who are these people settled in this area and never left. Navajo or nomadic came in while the men were off hunting and stole half of the amulets from the women. So they put a curse on the Navajo. Navajo got sick and brought them back. And to this day, the Navajo, including our guide, are scared to death of spirits. So they spent thousands of years and they found the heart of the earth in the middle of, it's in the middle of the Zuni village. We're going to the city of 5 kivas now with our guide taking us up this hill. So this is the ruins here. Again, maybe year 1000. This is a centipede. The story here is that the people were below the earth as salamanders. They were afraid to go out. They sent the centipede out and said, would you go check out what it's like out there? And the centipede came back and said, it's too bright and too hot, don't go. So they waited a while and tried again. And this is the horned toad for the rain. This is cocoa pelly for the fertility. Remarkable similarity across thousands and thousands of miles with these things.
Mm.
A view from near the top. This was quite a serious climb. I had trouble doing this, but I just do it slowly. This is the moon. Fertility and water were the deal. These were up on a sort of top of a hill. Lightning,
Mhm.
the North Star, the moon. This is, so they're very much into clans here. Your clan comes from your grandparents. So everybody has 4 clans and you're forbidden to marry within your clan. So it's very important when you meet people to announce your clan.
Hmm.
This is about 2 clans meeting, deciding to work together and leaving as a group. Again, this probably dates to like 2,000 years ago from the roughness of the carvings. He's telling us about this. This is recent. This is about 25 years ago. They were building a reservoir and during the breaks, the local workers would come up here and get the same kind of colors out of the field, and they did their own art, which is kind of cool.
Hmm.
And these are all stories. This is the scary woman with lightning coming out of her head, the terrified children. This woman's gonna take away your soul. This is all part of their storytelling. This is what the ground was like, rough to walk on, a lot of mud. And we climbed up to the top of here.
My.
And this is the center of the earth, this kiva here.
Hmm.
They found the heart of the earth and it's down in that kiva. And only a few people can go in there. And our guide's one of them. He's very famous. They have a secret entrance and they go in there during the certain times of the year. And that's when he said he actually sees the spirits. This is the same story we talked about before, the archaic basket maker, Pueblo,
Mhm.
standard archaeology. And the artist rendition of this is the center of the earth. I think it's right here. So once they found this, what they claim is that all of the native people came from them Zuni tribes. They were the founding tribe of the whole region. They fanned out into Chaco and places like that because they told them to go look for the heart of the earth. And when the Zuni found it, they said, come on back. And that's why they migrated back south. So who knows? The Spanish mission,
Yeah.
just a thing in the parking lot. Containers, I've never seen this before, containers on trains like this going for miles. This is a nice sized beer. This was in Albuquerque. This is a Cajun restaurant. This is 3 kinds of crawfish, crawfish etouffee, and
Hmm.
we couldn't eat all that fried food. And Junko had a special fish with oysters and shrimps on it and dirty rice. We enjoyed this place a lot. Now we're going on to another highlight, Pecos National Historical Park. People have been here at least 12,000 years. And they prospered and they were very strong, powerful warriors. This is what ancient corn was like. So if you don't want to eat GMO food, go eat these things.
Hmm.
And that was important because it occupied a really important pass. And these people were fierce warriors and nobody could challenge them militarily. And they survived here for years and years and years until the Spanish came. And this is what the pueblos look like. Here's the kiva, great kiva in the center, the houses. A big theme down there is what's called repatriation. And they're asking to bring their things back. And one of the big things is this archaeologist that excavated this site took out all the human remains and took them to museums. They demanded them back and put them back where they were. So this is the celebration of the local people when the government finally brought the remains back. So you hear a lot about repatriation of stuff that they took. Juniper berries. This was a giant pueblo at the time.
Hmm.
And this is a field where the people like the Navajo and the migrant tribes would come camp in this field and trade with them. And this is a remnant of a Spanish pueblo built in 1700. Defensive wall from, again, at least could be 12,000 years old. Remnants of the pueblo. I mean, 12,000 years, a long time. Akiva, this was a big deal.
Hmm.
you could go in there, but neither of us cared to. We've been in Kivas before. This
Mhm.
is kind of what this is only partially excavated, so a whole lot of things. The archaeologists in this area excavated things and put the dirt back in to cover things. The guy in Zuni had dug down through 8 layers of uh, various layers of villages that were there and dated them by the shards they found. And again, they think it's 50,000 years old. And then he put it all back in. Here's the guy taking out what's the trash, including the human remains. Kivas everywhere. The Zuni do a dance with these things balanced on their head.
Hmm.
And the preciousness of water. Again, this really unique location between the valley and the mountains. This first church was built in 1610, the second one 1717. I'm sorry, 1625. So by 1700, the Spanish had taught them how to mold bricks out of mud and straw. I think just dry them in the sun and put forms over this to put the adobe on. And of course, the Spanish forced them to adopt Christianity for their sake, Frank.
Yep, right.
Dendrochronology is how you date all these things accurately with those beams. This original drains in here, going back to 1600. Odd to have a kiva in a Spanish site. This is here because it was there. It predated the Spanish.
Mhm.
And the Park Service did this restoration to make it, restore it, look more. Here's what the remains of the buildings. Archaeologists look at this and just see scattered rocks on the ground and can assume there's buildings there. Now we're driving, heading home, leaving Albuquerque and into Colorado. Twice we saw this. I didn't know there were any Mennonites and whoever these are in Colorado, but apparently there are. And we're now in Alamosa. Junko's having menudo, one of her favorite things. And I'm having the shrimp fajitas that I like.
Oh, yeah.
And we were driving sunny skies until we hit this Monarch Pass. And for about an hour, we had this blinding friggin' snowstorm. Couldn't see a goddamn thing. And Junko took this picture, but later on, the road is just white.
Hmm.
And we had no idea this storm was here. It wasn't in any of the forecasts I had. It's in Monarch Pass. When you go over the pass into Poncha Springs, it's all gone. You're back in
Hmm.
blue sky.
Did you have to stop or were you able to keep
And we
moving?
kept going. The car has all-wheel drive and I had snow tires on it.
Yeah.
And we got into a whiteout and some idiot in the truck behind me passed us and was right in here in a black truck. So actually very useful. I could see his black truck in the whiteout. And
Mhm.
I just followed the truck and he's following the white truck. Coming back down
Oh, look at
285.
that. That's very Peruvian.
We had a private tour. This was a tour group that came along.
Mm-hmm.
We were not close to anybody in this whole tour except for this occasion. This guy just took us away from people.
Yeah, he's excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was an unexpected dividend that he could play that flute.
yeah. Like I said, that sounds very Peruvian when you think
Yeah,
about
yeah.
cultures marching their way down to South America.
So there it was, Frank.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. I enjoyed that.
Thank you. I, I said this may be the most interesting trip we ever took, and next door neighbor said, "You say that after every trip." Maybe I do. I don't know. But
Well, you're picking interesting places to go, and I think from what I've seen of the last several, each one builds on the other.
that's
It's
right.
some common
Yeah,
interest, and yeah, that's
that's
a lot
right.
of interesting stuff out there.
I think this is the most interesting part of the world. You know, if you go north from here, there's nothing like this. This is only down in this region, south, you know, New Mexico, Arizona. If you go into Wyoming, that no, for whatever reason, there's no native people up there. Maybe just too damn cold,
It's probably
you know?
climate driven. Um, they had to be someplace that was warm enough.
They also traded a lot with Mexico, you know,
Mhm.
they got, the Chacoans had macaw birds, they had parrots. And when
Mhm.
these people discovered birds that could talk, they thought they were holy, you know? It's, think about the day. And, they had, chocolate and they had, obsidian, they traded. So a lot of, a trade, and to them, the, the same people, I believe, are in Mexico, but they took a different turn, became Incas, became these,
Mhm.
you know, human sacrifice people and all that
Yeah, the
crazy stuff.
Aztec.
But they still interacted with them and
Mhm.
probably came, you know, from the same path downward into that region.
Surely.
So I'm not sure what we're gonna do next that can be as interesting as this.
Yeah, well, that's outstanding, and a a good visual stimulating thing. And you realize how intelligent these folks were.
The
Uh,
architecture is pretty amazing, isn't it?
yeah, the architecture is amazing, and that whole business of burning up the oxygen so they could store food.
I'd
I
never
mean,
heard that.
that's genius.
That was
Well, we do
incredible.
we do the same thing. We use zip bags, right?
Yep, when he
Keep the
told me
air out.
that, I said, my God, that's something I never, that's smart, you know?
Yep, yep.
Okay,
All right, my friend.
I'm gonna stop the recording.
Yep.